well over a year now, I've been throwing out these warnings to you. And a lot of people say, yeah, well, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen here. Well, the thing is that you have to look to the perspective that there are those players out there in government that are going to do their damnedest best to get to their objectives. And we've talked about obscenity laws, age verifications or assurance. We're talking on Senate bills that are meant to ban certain entertainment. I mean, especially now that what's going on in Texas right now, because last week we had discussed about the Texas bill, the one by Mike Lee, and another one that was running around the Texas Senate. Well, it seems like in between there and now, basically it has passed. So it's pretty much on its way to its final destination, probably to get signed by the governor of the state. And you look to this that it's Texas SB 20, and when you read into this, and this is the problem we have with a lot of these bills, and going back to what Pelosi said one time, well, you got to pass it and then you could read it. And this is the problem that we have, is the language of these bills that come across that these politicians don't want you to see. And this is both sides of the aisle. Understand that basically this particular bill, because they're going to say, well, the conservatives push this. No, this is a little bit of both sides. There's a lot to blame here. Now, understand that I'm not a lawyer. I look at the information and I make my own query, questions, judgments to that nature. And you can do it too. And most of you have that same answer every time, that something like this is going to be damaging. Now, ahead of time, the Supreme Court's going to knock this down. It's literally, I think to the point, if this gets signed, this doesn't take effect until September. When it does, if something comes down the pike, which there's going to be someone out there, and it's probably going to be a group like NOSC, which is Morality Media, because they have already done it in Kansas. They already threw a lawsuit with the age verification law out there before SCOTUS rules on that. So that they're trying to throw their lawsuits out before this, and try to win these lawsuits before SCOTUS rules on this. And this is the same thing, too, that's going to happen here. You're going to have situations where someone is going to sue somebody. And the thing about it is, this is going to affect a lot. And I'm telling you, people say, well, it's going to affect the anime and manga industry. Yes, it will. It's also going to affect the comic book industry. As the Comic Book Defense Fund, if you're not on their Twitter page or on their Facebook account, basically, they have been also handing out these warnings that they are, I believe they're going to be ready to sue eventually. That they're probably going to be one of the ones that are going to put money up to fight this. And there are many others, from Free Speech Coalition, ACLU. There are going to be a lot of people that are going to come down on this, because not only anime and manga and comic books, you're also talking about companies with big investments. We're talking Sony, which has Crunchyroll. You're talking also Netflix and all of streaming. All of streaming, also all of live television too. This would fall under. This would fall under books, novels. This was going to go across the board if someone enforces this law. And people said, well, no, this is not what it's meant. What is it meant? It's meant that, that what they're trying to do, and most people, that this is what they're trying to say, because they say, well, we're trying to protect the children. It's literally that they want to take the books, those crazy, insane sex books, out of the schools. I can understand that. Here's one thing I know. Don't mess with the kids when it comes to this. When it comes to CP, when it comes to these books, the LGBTQ, you don't mess with the kids. There's a time and a place to teach them about sex ed, to teach them about gay rights and stuff like that. I call it in high school. When it comes to sex, biology. I had biology when I was in high school. Where is it today? Are they still doing biology in high school? I don't know. When you talk about this situation and you say so, well, where does it say that this is going to be? Well, we run down onto this law, and the part you got to pay attention to, and it's pretty much early on. I mean, it's literally in the first couple of lines of the law. A person commits an offense if the person knowingly possesses, accesses with the intent to view or promote obscene visual material containing a depiction that appears to be of a child younger than 18 years of age, engaging in activities described by Section 43.21A1B, regardless of whether the depiction is of an image of an actual child, cartoon, animation, or image created using an artificial intelligence application or other computer software. You see here, this is the thing that is troublesome. This is a very vague situation here. It's very vague. You know, this could be anything. This could have effect on all entertainment, period. Movies, TV shows, like I said, cartoons, anime, manga. It will have a chilling effect. This is what I've been warning. This is trying to push these obscenity laws back into action again. Because basically, okay, let me put it to this perspective on there. This is why, because most people don't realize, is that the Supreme Court has already ruled on this. There is precedence in this situation. There's already laws on the books that basically this law would be unconstitutional according to the First Amendment. It's basically, this will be quashed eventually. What damage would occur? Who knows? We just have to sit back and hopefully it won't do what it's supposed to do. Maybe the Supreme Court will jump in immediately on this. But you'll hear stuff like indistinguishable. And that's what this is put to that point, is that the term indistinguishable used with respect to a depiction means virtual distinguishable in that the depiction in such an ordinary person viewing the depiction would conclude that the depiction of an actual minor engaged in sexual explicit content. The definition does not apply to the depictions that are drawings, cartoons, sculptures, or paintings depicting minors or adults. There you have it right there, ladies and gentlemen. When you're watching this, that basic, or listening into this, you have this point where the Supreme Court has already ruled, but yet you have those out there that are going to try to push this in. They try to squeeze this in as best as possible. This is what's happening with the age verification age insurance. They're trying to squeeze all this in. That's why you see in so many states that they're trying to put this out. But the thing about it is, it's all red herring. It's basically they just want to censor. And the thing is, and here's the point from the anime manga point of view. Now, most of you who do watch anime and manga note that a lot of these companies use templates in their characters. That's correct, templates. Most of these templates sometimes bleeds into from one show to the next show. You might have a character in Naruto look like a character in Mushoku Tensei. You might have a character in Dragon Ball Z that might look like a character in Attack on Titan. I mean, this is something that has been going on for many decades now with anime and manga, and some with the Western animation as well. You know, that's happened too. But the thing about it is also, you may say to yourself, well, I don't care too much about the anime and manga. Who cares if it gets banned or anything to that nature? No, this will have a chilling effect also. Simpsons, Family Guy, American Dad, Big Mouth on Netflix. It will affect comic book stores. It could affect Barnes and Noble, your local bookstore. This is something that needs to get squashed, and you have to understand that to that point. The other part of it is that this could get squashed even before it even gets to SCOTUS. And I think what's going to might happen, you have to remember, what else is in Texas? A lot of the Western anime manga industry, parts of it are in the state of Texas. You have Crunchyroll in there, and you have some of the manga companies that are working in that part of the country. So Sony might step in here. So maybe Netflix. Let's see. You might have AMC Network, which is they run High Dive. You might have other companies come in from streaming, live television to basically go after this. I mean, they might be sitting back and waiting to see what happens. That's also a possibility. If it comes down to the point where they might have to come in to sue, we could have a class action lawsuit coming against Texas. Because, you have this point. You have this point that you look to how these things are all worded. It's in the detail of the wording. And I'll repeat myself. Age assurance, age verification. This is something that's always been a turnaround. You have to go back all the way back to the 30s to the Hays Code. The Hays Code used to block a lot of stuff that you couldn't do in the movies. Some of it leaked into broadcast television when television came into play. But somewhere around the 50s, SCOTUS knocked it down. It said it was unconstitutional because basically you're taking a situation. You're taking away the expression of, artistic expression away from the author, the writer, the director. You're taking away their artistic expression away from the product that they're trying to make, which in all, that violates the Constitution, the First Amendment. And SCOTUS knocked it down, the Hays Code, but it took about till the 1970s for that to basically take hold in the MPAA to reformat what you see as the MPAA today with the rating system and all that. And we had a renaissance between the 70s to 90s between movies and broadcast television. I mean, a lot of great works. And not to knock that there weren't great works prior to the 70s. There were. But some of them could have been better to that point. And this is what happens. And remember, still going into the 70s, you had obscenity laws where if you were in a particular state and you had a movie on the screen and basically someone didn't like it, you could be arrested. The cops could come in and arrest you. Yes, this happened in this country. Yes, it did happen. It happened to the porn industry. It happened to comedians. There's a great movie with Dustin Hoffman called Lenny, which is the story of Lenny Bruce, a comedian. Guy who was like he was over the top. Something that, would be Dave Chappelle these days. Or Richard Pryor or Eddie Murphy, to the point that, you've seen those comedic routines. But Lenny Bruce was like one of the big early ones. And George Carlin was there too. He's also was arrested under obscenity laws. And you had groups like NOSC back then, Morality Media, suing radio stations for playing some of the stuff Carlin did. Now, you could take the perspective, did they play too much of the day? And from what I understand, the reasoning for that was in a conversation about language. So, in a way, it would become somewhat fair use to the point. Because you're educating, you're basically transformative to that point. Talking about, I mean, we're not talking about copyright, but I'm taking that perspective on there, that you're having a discussion on that. And the thing is that someone didn't like it. He says, he goes, later on, oh, no, I'm okay with the whole situation. No, but why did you sue? Why did you go after the radio station? because your son heard it. If you start to hear it on the radio, turn off the radio. See, that's the problem with some people these days, is that they get offended very easily on certain things and and some of it they don't understand. But guess what? They have the choice to either continue watching it or listening or reading it, or stop reading, stop watching, or change, turn it off. They have that option. Nobody is forcing them to continue to watch this. I have to laugh to the situation. And the other half of it is, still to this day, and this is from the anime manga point of view, and we talked about this before, there are people out there that still consider anime and manga pornography. See, that's the other issue with obscenity laws, is the definition of pornography. Because people consider, taking it from the lawsuits that have happened, there was a lawsuit with Morality Media that they, sued Walmart over having Cosmopolitan and Sports Illustrated in the front counter. Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. It's girls in swimsuits. Cosmopolitan, it's a women's magazine for women discussing women's issues. They had a problem with that. They called it pornographic. They had any problems with the muscle magazines. I didn't hear about that because there were muscle magazines also that are in that front counter. There are also the the rag magazines like the Sun and National Enquirer and all that. They had no problem with those. But they directed their attack on certain things, which they think it's one thing and it's not. And that's what happens. You see other people that says, well, have you watched any of the, these anime? Oh, no, but, I heard about the girls with the big boobies and stuff like that. Yeah, okay, yeah, you got some of them out there. There are. The girls with, what they call fan service, to that point. But there are other tales and stories that actually really don't have that. You got stuff like Free Ren, really, really good story there. There's a couple of, you got Macross. There's nothing wrong with Macross. Star Blazers. Gotcha Man, Speed Racer. I can go down a list of stuff from the past, present, and stuff that's coming out that, it's not offensive. Some of it might have some heavy action, stuff like that, but it doesn't have fan service to that nature. And of course, obviously, yes, there is stuff that has fan service in it. Some of it is of what I call R-rated nature, which is mature audiences. And a lot of these, when you buy these on Blu-ray, DVD, back when we, the VHS era, it was marked not for kids. I remember that there used to be one company that used to put that little sticker on the thing and had a little kid's face on it. It says, nope, sorry. And it had that was crossed out and it says, not for kids. And that was the thing. It wasn't, some of the stuff wasn't made for kids. But the thing about it is that also they think because it's a cartoon, that cartoons are only made for kids. No, cartoons, animation, anime, however you want to call it, is a artistic form. It is a way of telling a story. Same way as if you write it in a book, tell it on a movie screen, describe it on an audio book, like do an audio book or describe it to someone, being here on, describing it on there. There are those levels that you go. You got kids, you got general audiences, you got mature, and then of course you got the specialty stuff, which is of an adult nature that is very specialized and limited, that not everyone will want. And, in a way, you can call it pornography or hentai. You could, call it however you want to call it to that point. But there are lines in each of these products, and most of these people just groups everything up. And the same thing with, when they talk about lolicon, lollies and all that stuff, which is completely separate as well. And of course, one thing we didn't put up there, video games. Video games would also be affected under this terminology. And there are many different types. See, I chalk it back up to the same people, and some of them have been, that are no longer with us, that basically they passed the torch on, that this has been going on since well into the late 80s, into the 90s, as we were expanding outward, the VHS era and the DVD, and then the internet came in, and of course, obviously cable and broadcast television as well. They tried to blame the world's problem, the problems that they're having on the streets with kids, on all of this, which basically you have to take to the point to look at where the blame should go. It's the parents, to the point. The parents are responsible for their child. If they're not watching their child and watching what they're doing and stuff like that, there's going to be an issue. Obviously to that nature. I mean, I've heard committee hearings after committee hearings. I mean, you yourself can go out and listen to some of these hearings from the late 80s, early 90s on video game violence, TV violence, music lyrics. And you'll see some people come forward, the experts in the industry. People, I mean, the best ones are the ones for the music lyrics. I mean, you have some great, Frank Zappa, Dee Snider, Twisted Sister. I mean, you have so many people came forward to testify. Because, they're saying, the Dee Snider is the best ones. Because they thought that, because of the way Dee looks, that, he's a Satanist and this and that. And when you talk to him, you find out that he is a Christian, that his music does not portray what, Tipper Gore and Al Gore were saying, because that's who was pushing it at one point. That there basically was S&M and this and that. Like, the one particular song that Dee Snider, I forgot the name of the song, but it's something Dee Snider put out that basically they thought it was about S&M. But what it was the real truth to it is he wrote a song about one of his bandmates who was going in for an operation and how frightening to him to go under the knife on an operating table, which, that's anybody. Anybody does not like going, if you have to have an operation. It's a scary thought. And he wrote a song about it. And this is what they thought to this situation. So you can imagine what they think of, when I say they think all of anime and manga are pornography. And this is why, you see the law, this law, trying to go into effect. Then they say, well, we're trying to protect the children.
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children?
You want me to tell you something? You want to protect the children? Fix the curriculum. Fix the teachers. And this is a problem also. You have activism across the board in our educational system. Kids cannot read at their grade level. They can't do math at their grade level. And this is happening all over the country. Places like Chicago, New York, Baltimore. Baltimore has done the local news channel there has done story upon story concerning the problems in their school system. That kids are graduating from grammar school into high school into college that basically shouldn't have graduated. I think the last number that I got, it's like 85% of the kids in one school system in Baltimore can't read or write or do math. You hear these stories day in and day out, and they just push them aside. The other half is that basically, if a parent wants to block things on the internet, or they don't want the child to buy this particular thing, then they're allowed to. Access to the internet, you could limit their access to the internet. Yeah, I know kids are smart out there. They'll probably get around it, but there are ways of blocking it with certain software packages. Some of it you have to pay for, some of it is free. The other half is when it comes to like books. There are some parents out there that doesn't understand what their kids are reading. Sit down to read with them. That's the other part of it. Take time from whatever you're doing, if you're at work or if you happen to be a house dad or housewife. Take a moment, sit with your child and read what he's doing. Look at the homework with them. See if they understand it. See if you understand what they're reading, because they're going to take advantage and start banning books that shouldn't be banned. They've already done this. See, the thing about it is with the LGBTQ stuff, that they said, well, they're banning us out of the school, it's wrong and stuff like that. The stuff that shouldn't be in the schools, if the parent wants to buy it, they can go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or anywhere like that and buy it there. They can. But when you ban a book like certain Dr. Seuss books where you can't even purchase them anymore, that's an issue. Because they said, well, it's, we don't like the characters. It's kind of racist on there. They're caricatures. That's the thing that gets me. You know what pisses me off is that we have tons of cartoons and drawings and stuff like that gets banned because they said, well, they're being racist. No, they're caricatures. They're depicting, they're making levy of the situation. It doesn't matter whether it's a minority, whether it's a particular animal, a situation. What you're taking here is basically it's not based on reality. And you have to understand that it's not real. It's like the Dr. Seuss books. Those characters are not real. That is the world of Dr. Seuss. You may say, well, that looks a little racist to me. No, it's just a caricature. It doesn't exist. It's poof. It doesn't exist. It's fiction. It's all fiction. And you got to understand that. When you, like I said, they wanted, regardless of the depiction of an image of an actual child or a cartoon, animation, or image creating using an artificial intelligence application or computer software. There are people who draw beautiful things. There are art objects that depict like childlike angels that are naked. Is that pornographic? Do you consider that pornographic? Is it? Please tell me. I mean, I would love to know. Because to me, that is a piece of artwork. That's not something for me to say, ooh. Pedos don't look at shit like that. Those pedos are just sick, demented minds. And you see how some people are trying to pressure. They're saying, well, they should be accepted. It has nothing to be accepted. They're violating the law. They're hurting children. But when you have a statuette depicting a child like an angel, and you've seen this many times in many movies and art galleries, and if you've gone to places where there are like all these statues and fountains, you don't see people tearing them down, calling them CP, because it's not. It's a piece of artwork. And in most cases, it doesn't depict an actual child. It depicts, whatever the artist had in mind at that moment. Most of the time, they go by a similar template. And that's the thing that you got to get. Templates. Most of these cartoons have templates on how they draw. It's perfect example is like if you ever take those little Matchbox, if you ever see, well, if anybody has a magic box, they used to have that learn to draw, and they give you like a couple of drawings, like a pirate and a parrot and something else, and they tell you, if you could draw this, you can come to the school, But those are templates. Those are actual templates. Well, we've been going on for a little bit on this, but I just had to talk about this. I mean, it is literally a situation. But again, SCOTUS is going to knock this out of the park. It's literally. But there will be some damage due, because you're going to get people that are going to say, well, I don't like that guy down the block who has a comic book store. We'll find something wrong in his store and we'll get him shut down. That's the mentality they're going to have. And that's what's going to happen. And that's happening right now. It's happening in Kansas right now. And that's because of the age. If you've seen the age verification video that I put out. So thank you for tuning in to Otaku Thursday. Please comment. Let me know your thoughts about this. It's very important, that we have to knock this out. Knock this out and knock out a lot of it. We have a First Amendment. There are other countries that have already shut this stuff down. Russia is in the middle of right now stopping anime figurines from coming into Russia. Think about that for a minute on that. So comment, like, share, and hopefully today's the day I've earned your subscription. So once again, thank you for tuning in. I mean, really, thank you for tuning in. We are starting our move back into full stream again. We are just still doing some extra tweaks here and there. And of course, we have the Man with the Show's summer edition starting up in June. I believe we're going to be starting it within about a couple of days of this broadcast. So do check it. I think it's like Tuesday, I think it is. We're going to be starting it up. I believe so on that. So do stay tuned for that, our summer edition itself. So until next time, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you on the next edition of Otaku Thursday here on YouTube and on Rumble, 6 p.m. Eastern. Check us out next time. And, oh yeah, I forgot. Before I forget all things. Be sure to check us out on Sci-Fi Snob. I will be on the panel for the season finale of Babylon 5 Season 1, Crystallis. We'll be talking about that. I will leave the link below. It's Wednesday, 11 p.m. Eastern. That's next Wednesday. That will be the... let me pull up the date on that. Oh my God, I don't even have the date up. Sorry about that, folks. It will be the 4th of June. That's 11 p.m. Eastern. Do check it out. And I do have the link below there. Until next time, thank you for tuning in, and so long.
Thanks for watching, commenting, and sharing this video. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe, as this helps the reach of this channel. Finally, as a content viewer, you have the ability to help support this channel, as new internet laws around the world will diminish our reach and affect our sponsors. If you choose to help, there are 2 ways, listed in the description below. The first link will lead you to a pay site where you can make a monetary donation. The second will lead you to our gear shop, where you can buy shirts, mugs, and other gear. Discounts will be listed on the site. Once again, thank you for watching and your support.
Fuck all what you think, bitch. Make sure let me paint this.